Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. And you will wish to concern yourself with this watch because today we speak with reference of the CPCP, Collection Privée Cartier Paris. It is the apple of every collector's eye, an ultra haute de gamme series launched by Cartier in 1998 and run through 2008. It featured the company's all-time great forms, among others the tank and the Tortue as seen here, plus movements brought in from the best manufacturers in the industry, Frédéric Piguet, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Piaget, and in this instance we have a perpetual calendar module on top of a Girard-Perregaux automatic base. So this shape, the Tortue, originally launched in 1912, goes back to the future courtesy of a beautiful platinum form created in the modern era, 34 millimeters wide, not including the crown, 10.4 millimeters thick, and then from lug tip to lug tip, 43.3 millimeters with an 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I do want to emphasize that this strap, which is a Cartier factory strap, is brand new. It is super stiff. It will break in over time and become flexible, but when these are new, they're very substantial. So when I put this on my wrist, I'm going to have to pull it tight. It's going to make the watch look bigger than it is. So let's take a quick look at how this watch wears on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It wears well, although you can see I am pulling it down tight. Rest assured, this watch will fit on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and you can see how far inboard of the edge of my wrist it is on each side. Also, a 10.4 thick with a sloped bezel. It will slide underneath the dress cuff, and you can see even pulled tight, even over the top, which exaggerates the width of a watch, it's still inboard of the edge of my wrist. So if your wrist is 14 centimeters in circumference, maybe even 13 and a half, if it's very flat and oval, you can wear this well. In platinum, you can really feel the weight. It's a satisfying feeling on a luxury watch. And because it is a white metal and not rose or yellow gold, it's maybe even a little bit more versatile as an everyday carry than something that's, again, more traditional in yellow or rose. This is a Cartier dress watch that wants to be worn casually and can be. The strap is an OEM piece as fitted at the factory. It's very substantial. You could see that it's made of large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather, always one of the best cuts of the animal. It's a matte finish. It's got a monotone stitch and a folded edge. It's lined with calfskin on the bottom, made by Camille Fournet, the OEM supplier of straps to Cartier. And then we have a little bit of bolstering so that where the strap joins the lugs, you can see that the thickness matches perfectly for a smooth flow and taper from one end to the other. You'll also note that there are no holes on the underside of the strap because the watch uses Louis Cartier's iconic and long-lived 1909 folding clasp. This was the first Deployant clasp made for a wristwatch of any kind, and it was a landmark piece for the industry, but it's still pretty smart today. First, before I talk about why it's so smart, let me just explain that on a lot of watches that are made of platinum, you wind up with a white gold clasp because white gold is not only harder than platinum, it is the hardest gold. So if you have a mechanical component like a swing arm or a hinge, oftentimes it'll be made of white gold to have less danger of warping, deforming, or becoming kinked. So that's why this is hallmarked white gold. You can also see the Cartier wants it to look aesthetically like a match for the watch, which is why it's bright white and rhodium plated. Just a little quirk to mention right there. In terms of how it works, effectively, it tucks any excess length underneath the clasp body and underneath the strap. So note there are no minder loops. These are minder loops. They often fall off before your strap has had it, and they force you to buy a new strap. They also can wind up looking a little bit ragged and worn out before the strap is ready to go. So Cartier simply does away with them thanks to Louis Cartier's system. And because the excess length is under the strap and the clasp, it's very clean once it's sized down. The other thing that's nice is it's a bit like Velcro in that within the total range available, you have infinite adjustments. You're not locked into using the pre-cut perforations, so you can really fine-tune this fit to be absolutely perfect. The case is gorgeous. And you can see it's monoblock. So notice how there's no seam between bezel and case because there is no separate bezel and case. We have one big piece for this seamless, organic, muscular form. It's voluptuous, rounded with compound curves, and no break between bezel and case means it really looks integrated, handsome, and all of a piece. It's a designer's dream come true. This case is a backloader, which means the case back comes off and the movement and the dial load through the reverse side. You can also see that screws and bars are used to attach the strap to the buckle and the case to the strap. This is a lot more secure than a spring bar setup. I've seen nightmares where spring bars pop off and Journe tourbillon watches fall to the ground. Cartier apparently thought ahead here. Every CPCP watch does not include this type of construction, so even in this elite company, this is rarefied refinement. This is not something you'll find on every Cartier CPCP model, so I really like to see that. A little quirk, in this period, when Cartier made a platinum watch, it would give you a white gold crown. So you could see that the natural white gold of the crown is a little bit warmer and darker than the blinding white platinum of the case. But we still have the faceted sapphire cabochon. We have one of my favorite crystals of all time. You can see not only is it shaped to match the Tortue form from 1912, but it's actually arced and cambered across the top. It's got a curvature to it. That's very difficult to achieve. It's very difficult to make a watch water resistant with this kind of a crystal, and yet the watch does have standard dress watch 30-meter water resistance, so that's really something to its credit. And because this type of crystal has to be fixed in place by adhesive, it's really easy to leave some of the glue peeking out from under the bezel. And you can see here there is none, so this is beautifully made. Taking a quick look at the dial, it features a classic Cartier rosette, and then we've got radially rayed Roman numerals. We have a chemin de fer for the minutes, a railroad track. Note we have beautiful bilateral and cruciform symmetry. So if you split it from top to bottom, it's symmetrical. If you split it from side to side, it's symmetrical. You could see Cartier Paris at center. For years, there were 3 Cartier branches, one in New York, one in London, and one in Paris. The oldest and sort of the brain of the operation, certainly the most imperious, was Cartier Paris. And in the 70s and 80s, when they were unified under Rothmans, later Richemont, the Parisian office officially did take control of the triplets. So that is there to emphasize the ancestral home of Cartier, as well as the true French nature of this design, which is why, well, partly why, it is a French language calendar. So you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as well as the months on this perpetual calendar. The perpetual calendar does not need to be reset until the year 2100. I love the fact that this perpetual calendar does not include a moon phase. I feel all too often it's contrived and it's jammed into the dial. This watch has more beauty and symmetry without it. If you look very careful, we were talking about French language, you could see that up at the top, we actually have 2 coaxial hands on one register. The larger outer one is the current month, and then the inner one points to the leap year phase. So that B means quantième bissextile, which is the leap year en français. Here's the thing. The quantième bissextile is the summer Olympic year. If you need to remember and you have trouble or you have a mental block against remembering the leap year when setting your watch, it's always the summer Olympic year. Taking a look at the bottom of the dial, we have what might at first glance appear to be some kind of 24-hour indicator to prevent you from using the pusher adjusters during the so-called danger zone. Well, you want to keep in mind with a perpetual calendar, just don't set it between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. to be careful. You can use this 24-hour indicator to mirror the hands at center, but there is a separate adjuster just below the crown that allows you to use this as a second time zone in a 24-hour format. So not only is this a perpetual calendar, this is also a dual time. There is a coordinated adjuster right here that allows you to jump the day and the date separately, and then you can move the day separately from the date if you use this pusher right here. And then this one up here controls the leap year, which is driven by the month. So all that is quite good. It's driven by a Girard-Perregaux base on the back. So like I said, the best movements were brought in from the finest suppliers. Cartier, not traditionally a manufacturer, did for the CPCP collection what Vacheron did for its first quarter millennium, bring in the best and then modify and finish accordingly. So this is a GP 3000 series unidirectional automatic winding 4 Hz beat rate, 26 joules on the base movement with a 46-hour power reserve. Although it does not have a running seconds hand, it does retain the Girard-Perregaux's inherent hacking function, so you can stop your watch if you want to. Just remember there's no seconds on the dial side. It's been customized with engine turning along the side of the bridges as well as on the base plate, polished screw heads, Cartier monogram on the rotor as well as the bridges, and then you can see a more than credible mirrored bevel on the rotor edge as well as the edges of the bridges, so quite good looking in that regard. The GP movement also has a beautiful solarization on its barrel cover, which never ceases to please me. So you have a high horology movement from a high horology company in a high horology watch with a high horology complication. Please take note, this is the caliber 9422, and this watch is not the Tortue Perpetual that was launched in 2010. That was a bigger, more common, more divisive watch. This is the much, much scarcer Cartier Perpetual from the CPCP collection. So a harder watch to find and a lot more collectible with caliber 9421. If you love this watch, reach out to us. Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. One more note, this is a full set watch, which is very rare for these older Cartier. You will get this watch, the box, and all of the papers.